Well, I am excited today to have Manny on the call on the podcast. Manny's an entrepreneur, a marketer. He has spent years building businesses, helping businesses grow, building automations, AI tools. As I was trying to kind of go through and figure out what to say about Manny, there was just way too many things. I've had the privilege of working with him for a couple years now. I was trying to think about how far back it's been, quite a while now, and really wanted to get him on here so that everyone who listens can understand who he is, what he does. I jokingly, but not jokingly, tell him he's a genius all the time because sometimes he gets on calls with me and it just blows my mind. He shows me things that I go, how in the world did you come up with this? And I really want the rest of the universe to get to know Manny a little bit better. He likes staying behind the scenes a lot of times, though he is definitely an upfront guy. And with that said, I'm excited. Manny, welcome. Thanks for being a part and jumping on with me today.
Yes, good morning, Rob. Thank you so much for having me. As always, it's a pleasure and a great gift of getting together with you because you also, I believe, you have your own genius that you plug into, and I'm always inspired of reaching that potential with you. So thank you.
Yeah, well, it's good to have you. So, well, we're gonna this kind of just open conversation. We're gonna back up because I want people to actually get to know you. And truthfully, as I was thinking about it, I don't know a lot of your backstory. I don't know where you came from and how you got here and how every one of us has a journey to where we are today, and that's kind of what we want to explore because I could ask you questions about AI and you'd blow everyone's mind, but the
Right.
important thing is, how did you get there? How did you get to that? So let's rewind way back, way back, way back. Where were you born? Where? Tell me about growing up. Where were you when you were a kid?
Right. So it is I call it life cycles. I've been through so many life cycles and journeys in my life that is almost if I tell everybody everything I've done and experiences, they won't really believe me because it's crazy, right? So for me, it started really first generation mother side. Mother came from Cuba in the 80s, that whole epic
Yeah,
of Scarface movie is actually a true story, but subliminally hidden what really happened. So she was one of those victims that came in political refugees for asylum. So I was born in New Jersey, Jersey City, raised in Reading, PA. Really hectic and wild environment, to say the least. Um, it's next to Philadelphia, New Jersey, New York. So in the tri-state area is nothing easy there. And for me, it really goes back to who I am, Rob, as my identity is as an artist, right? So many people don't know this either, but I started when I was in elementary school as an entrepreneur and artist. I started drawing self-made comic books and just paper and selling them for exchange of candy, gum, and chips, right? So that's how I started
awesome.
innovating characters and drawing. And still, I call myself still an artist, but creating systems.
Hmm.
As you know, I'm just in my mind, I just could create systems out of thin air pertaining to solving the problem the fastest way possible for
Hmm.
every individual. And that's how my mind works, is because from the very beginning, I've been an artist and, full scholarship to the best art schools in the world. I had the opportunity too. So that's where it really stems from my creativity and as
Wow.
an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're running around the streets, drawing and selling comic books for candy. Any brothers or sisters?
So I have, uh, it's a mixture. My mother had two kids in Cuba, but when they threatened her with 10 years plus in jail or leave Cuba to come to the United States, my grandmother said, go ahead and leave while I'll take care of your kids. So you won't have to spend a minimum 10 years in prison in Cuba. So she had to flee and then had me and my little sister. and over here. So I have a brother and two sisters on my mother's side.
Okay. How about your dad? You know your dad? Is he around?
Yeah. So the funny thing is, I guess we're going real here and raw, right? So, I haven't. They had an issue, you know. My mother and father. It was like a forbidden Romeo and Juliet story, and my grandmother didn't want them together, so she left. But she was pregnant with me after they separated. I They did not know I existed till I was 30 years old. Until I fasted for a whole week, really more than that. I said, God, I'm not gonna eat anything else until you allow me to find my father, because it was a big deal for me for cycling my loops. At that time I was in a closing loop journey and in self-discovery, right? And it was like finding your history to close these loops and close generational curses, but you had to, that's when I started going to Cuba again, for the first time, to visit my mother's side and my dad's side, to understand. I believe your true identity is witnessed in the DNA and characteristics of your past, of your past family members, and now you can see how all these come together to form you, plus like a hybrid of you of them, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
that was the journey I was in. 'Cause I was heavily inside of men's ministry, and that was like a homework assignment. So fast forward to that. Yeah, my father is actually from uh the Bronx, New York. He was born in Puerto Rico and raised in New York. Then, they all moved to Florida. So that is, that's me. That's it.
Yeah. Well, so go back to Cuba for a minute. So your mom is in Cuba. They met in Cuba. Is that where they met, or
No,
they
they
met in
met
New York?
in New York, in the Bronx.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So they met there. So your mom being in Cuba, why was she being persecuted? What was the impetus behind that? What was going
So
on?
so there was like low tolerance for even curfew breaking. Like if you're out past 8 o'clock, they will lock you up and call it a political backlash. Like you're not following the rules of this
Mhm.
government, this communism that
Yeah.
many people don't know about, because we're Americanized. Even me, like we were raised not to. Until I actually went to Cuba when I was 30 years old, Rob, I couldn't comprehend the communism till I seen it firsthand with my eyes, right? And I said,
Wow.
"Wow, this is commun. This is insane. The full control that they have over people's mindset, over the food, over water, over electricity, over Wi-Fi. People don't understand here how it's really played. And we could get into deeper politics, but people need to wake up to see this is real. So when I saw that, I understood my mother even more. It's like, wow, they were really restricted from any uh amendments that we have of freedom of speech is eradicated. There's no such thing. You will get probably persecuted on the spot, executed, or jail time. So that's why she was freedom of speech, and she did not. She was outside a curfew. It was just a curfew too, by the way. She was out for her curfew and refused to comply because she felt like it was not right, and tried to voice her opinion, and she got locked up. Minimum 10-year sentence, and she was opted to come here, right? So yeah.
Yeah. So is your mom still alive? Your dad's still
Oh
alive?
yeah, she's still alive. She's still alive, and she's like, one of my best friends. Honestly, like she's such a warrior. I gained a lot from her work ethic, and a lot really. She's really a strong woman, and really
Yeah.
respect her.
Yeah. Now I know that you're a man of faith, that you've walked that journey. Tell me about how you came to faith, how you came to know that. What was that journey like?
I think I didn't know this till like past 30s. Right now, I'm a little older now. But I didn't realize this. When you rewind everything, everything comes together, right? And then it makes sense like a puzzle of why it is what you're,
Mhm.
wherever you are present today is your who is because of your past, how you designed everything yourself. But if we rewind everything, it started with my mother coming here. Now, my mother at that time, not anymore, thank God, she is a faith-based woman now, but at that time, she came with her habits and generational habits and curses of witchcraft, which this religion called Santeria. It's witchcraft, right? So
Mhm. Mhm.
that's what it is,
Yeah.
hands down. So when she came over, I was introduced and grew up in this, and thus seeing spirits when I was six. Well, I remember I was 4 years old, but between that time frame, I saw spirits all the time, and it was a norm that where we grew up was Glenside, PA, and this was a housing, this the projects, and a lot of these witches, warlords were present in my mother's life because she was one a high, basically a high, saint or priestess, if you call it.
Mhm.
So I remember I think I was like 9 years old. This Lutheran church across the street. Thank God for shout out to Pastor Bruce and his love for the youth. I did get like Catholic wise baptized, that I call it. I got baptized again later because it's not
Yeah.
for me. It's not the real deal. But I do remember always believing in Christ before I was 7 years old and knew He was real because of the spiritual gifts I witnessed since a young age.
Yeah. That's incredible. I man, I really wish we had time, and we'll come
Right?
back to that at some point.
Okay.
Like we that's important for us to know because that's growing up in that. Um, yeah, looking back now on some of that stuff, how's that shaped you today? How has that changed your life today? What are some of the things that you go, man?
Um, that's pretty you know, that's like an hour long question, but let me see if I could do it in a few minutes. Well, honestly, Rob, I believe I always read and believe in reading is essential for everybody, no matter who you are. If you're not reading, I remember I was in elementary. It said 3 days without reading is a week. WEAK, right? I always remember that, and it's still true, especially now that I fast forward and multiple mentors that's like 8, 9 figures I talk to all the time. They're like, "Are you reading this book?" They always recommend books, and I say that because now I'm in this season of my life that 40 years old now. I'm just beginning, and it's true. I doubt it. The books I read, like Napoleon Hill one, is like you really at 40, 50 years old is where you reach your prime mental awareness and maximum state to the next level. I'm like, no way. I'm pretty sharp, and no, it's true. Like for me, I'm now beginning to piece together all these elements and universal laws, if you will. Like the Bible has these principles. They're
Hmm.
God's automations, I believe. And when you plug in these laws, good or bad, whether you're good or evil, there's automations that once you plug them in, it works no matter what. So now I'm in this self discovery, another phase that I've been given a vision this year that I'm. It's gonna take me a year, Rob, to process what God has shown me in this vision, and this is what I call the eight senses, right? There are five main senses we all know about: the sight, the hearing, and touch. So those are something I've been working on for 3 years plus. I wrote something down. God convicted me of you need to share this with people. And I got convicted. I wrote like 7 pages. It's really 10 pages. And I was convicted. I said, wow, it is a lot of things of this spiritual warfare, I call it. Uh, and how that is intertwined today to later, Rob, it changed my whole trajectory of my chief aim in life. So, so right now I'm in the beginning, the foundation, collecting all the data of spiritual warfare, and one of them is poverty is a spiritual backlash of our own doing and uh our own creation and not following the laws or rules and knowledge of God installed in us is why people are broken poor, right? And that's a spiritual warfare though. That's spiritual warfare, poverty. So a lot of these things I'm building, and this is my chief aim in life, is to get people prepared and for the spiritual war that's coming. That's here, but it is coming. So to me, that's my chief aim. No matter what happens, successful wise, entrepreneur or not, which I do believe in, because without funds, without money, it's like you're saying, first of all, you're not giving enough value to the world in exchange for the money in your bank account. To me, right? If you're an entrepreneur and the more money you have in exchange of good value and service, you're serving people with your heart. Like that's that, there's other bad intent people, but for us believers, and it took me a long time to break free from this rich mindset is money is evil, right? It took me like almost a decade. After I lost my first seven-figure business, I said, oh, that's good. I wasn't supposed to have this money anyways. I don't, good. Thank God for humbling me. No, that's false. That's a wrong mindset. And you cannot help people. The more impact I need is more funds to impact more people to get ready for this war to reach more people, if that makes sense. So that's where I'm at now. Actually, I'm starting over at the beginning of the foundations of the collection of writing, and it's going to be like workbooks and actual classes of these eight senses that God
Mm,
have shown me, and
that's
that's
awesome.
like my main mission, my
That's
chief
awesome.
aim, really.
That's awesome. Let's back up a little bit because you said something I think that would be interesting, to talk about if you don't mind. You said back when you lost your first seven-figure business. What was that business? How did you grow it? How did you lose it?
So I was in real estate since I was like 18, and I was really, really, I had a good reputation for that, and I was really heavy into real estate game. This is when Dean Graziosi was really, and Mark Rubel was like my main mentor. He's a Croatian ex boxer champion there. Came over here, super super awesome faith based guy, and I was like specializing in pre foreclosures, and
Hmm.
I did rehab flips, really a successful business, and then it crashed. Everything, got destroyed. I got divorced, went through a dark period of my life, but also necessary to grow to the next level and phase of my life. Right, I believe um, there's destruction, but it follows good intention. If you have good intention to reach to the next level, you're always gonna go through a destruction period, and it's like working out. Muscles and chains have to break in order to grow and go to the next level.
Yeah, yeah. Hang on just a second. Sorry about that. We'll get that edited out.
Oh, okay.
um, it's interesting that when um, whenever you hit those kinds of times in your life, like I didn't know that you'd been through a divorce before. I mean, like I'm learning lots of things, and I want to say I'm learning lots of cool things because that's not a cool thing. But again, your story, your journey is the most important thing, um, because without that story, without that journey, you don't get to where you're at right now. You don't have the wisdom, the know-how, the even the I think a lot of times that the hindsight is what gives you the foresight, right?
Mm.
And so, but when you go through these seasons like divorce and losing your business and everything falling apart, those are the things that accelerate you out the other side. And would you agree with that? I mean, how have you seen that in your life?
I think it's impossible, Rob, to grow without pain. It's like growing pains, right? Like we said back in the days, it's impossible, and it's impossible to accelerate because there's cycles of we call them um um like re- it's like cycles you're stuck with, but if you don't learn from them, also, then you're doomed to repeat the same mistakes, right? Insanity. So I do believe there's a way that life, I believe, don't happen to you; it happens for you, right? And I am a big believer, and this is really theological stuff. If you dive deeper into original biblical Hebrew and Greek terms, basically what it comes down to, like King Solomon, right? Like Proverbs was, his peak and everything. He's brilliant. The Ecclesiastes is him crawling back to God and said, look, at the end of the day, nothing else matters, but you enjoy your journey, right? And you serve God. Like that's it. That's what he and remember, he was a multi-trillionaire, so he experienced everything. God gave him this wisdom, and I say like all the pain, and I'm telling you, I went through. It's unbelievable. I went through multiple car crashes, 18-wheelers running me over, like crazy events in the wheelchair. I've been like blind. I was blind for a year and a half, right? So I've been, and that's just purely spiritual warfare because nobody, no, I went through three specialists. Nobody knew how I got it or how it went away, but I have the answer now because of this research I'm doing. And basically, at the end of the day, pain is necessary to grow. And any conflict you have now, you need to understand one, you may have created it in your mind because the sixth sense is subconscious. So, subconsciously, God gave us these skills and power to design your destiny, right? That's the rule and law of God. That's why we are his greatest creation, because we are able to create our own future. Okay. And it's insane to look at it. If you rewind all the things you have created, it's scary because you're like, wow, I can't believe this devastation happened. And of course, this ripples effects of who you're around. That's why it's important to be surrounded with ideal people you want to be like in order to grow into the becoming of you, right? So that's really important people to know. If you're around, simply put, if you are around people who play golf all the time, you eventually be one of those people. Not a great golfer, maybe, but you'll be in that mindset of millionaires. You'll be around millionaires all the time. Eventually, the first the five people you're around, most likely the common denominator income, that's what your income will be in a year or so. So that's like common denominating facts. But every pain we go through is because we designed it, right? And of course, there's other factors of other people around you that contribute with how they think and feel, and that's what happens in your life today. Period. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm trying to
Trying to
put it
condense
real
it
short,
down.
not
Yeah.
technical.
Yeah, no, that does. I mean, again, we're going to come back, bring you back on at some point because we want. There's probably 5 or 6 episodes just to unpack some of the stuff that you're talking about, and that's good. Gives us things to look forward to. But
Mm.
um, I know that we don't have a ton of time today, so let's take a pivot. You're talking about pain, and it seems like entrepreneurs
It's 9 o'clock.
experience their own level of pain and because they're they've got a dream, they've got a vision, they're building something from scratch, bootstrapping, whatever it is. Let's talk to those entrepreneurs for a moment. They're in the midst of the pain, the fight, the battles, carrying all the baggage from whatever their journey has been. What would you say to them? What would you encourage them? What would you talk to them about their next steps?
Listen, entrepreneurship is a lonely journey for a reason. That's why the foundations are critical. First of all, I talked to this is like repeating message for this month alone. This is like the fourth time I mentioned it. So you need to have the ultimate goal and desire in your life because some of us entrepreneurs have these gifts that I call curse at the same time because we have this shiny object syndrome and we get easily sidetracked. So the main thing is to have your North Star. What is your chief aim in life? Meaning you're 80, 90 years old and you're looking back at yourself now and say, hey, I'm proud that and glad that you achieved this. Thank you. What is that? Right? And that will help you reverse engineer like chess. If you play chess, what are the pieces to checkmate to get to that point? And you're gonna find you gotta say no so many more than you say yes to so many opportunities that's not worth it, right? But you have to have that discernment to know, yes, this piece will move my knight because it makes sense on my chessboard of my life. And once you get that foundational North Star to reverse engineer, you know exactly what steps look like. Of course, you're not going to know 5 steps ahead. Just be one step knowing exactly where you stand and what's the next step. Because then life, God, whoever will show you or demonstrate, someone will come into your life or an opportunity will present itself. That makes sense. That you don't have to know everything. Uh, uh, you're in the issue right now. Read that book. What's the main topic? Find the best book, best selling book on that topic, or the mentor at that time, right? Not for life, or that time that will hold your hand through that situation to get you to that bridge to the next step to the next chess move, right? So that's what it, it took me a long time to understand this, but that's how systems work, and that's one of God's automation is find out your design for your life, have that skill, that wisdom is to practice and actually do it and be prepared for it, and then you're gonna be successful because that is the difference between entrepreneurs. It's a difference between success, right? There's different success levels. There's one that's called achievement, which is, awards and stuff. Like you see, I have awards. That's cool. But now you have fulfillment. So that's more important, guys, because what is that fulfillment look like? And that's what you're striving towards. Enjoying that journey to fulfill your ultimate desire, destiny for that chief aim in life.
Yeah, that's
There.
good stuff there. That's good stuff. Um, yeah, I'm just kind of processing that a little bit because that's it's deep and it's good. And I think a lot of times entrepreneurs they confuse achievement and fulfillment, right? So
Yep.
we get the trophy, but we never reach the goal. The trophy's not the end game. The fulfillment of who you are we're designed to be is the ultimate goal, right? And
Right.
that's kind of been my experience in entrepreneurship is that it's less about the achievement and more about the journey of becoming who I'm supposed to be. So you didn't end up in the systems AI workflow space like you weren't 6 years old going, I think one day I'm going to build AI tools. I'm going to do this. That wasn't even it. Probably even when you were in real estate and that kind of stuff, wasn't in your end game. So talk to me about how did you get to where you're at with, especially in the AI world. I remember back when I met you, I was trying to think, I think it was 2024, and you started showing me some AI tools, and I was like blown away because AI had really just kind of popped out as a thing, right?
Hmm.
Now it's everywhere. I mean, it's taken gone so fast that I don't think people remember that it was just a couple years ago that nobody really. knew what AI was or what it did.
Right.
Right. And so I remember you showing me some tools, and I was like, how, what? I mean, my mind was blown. And you were like, yeah, I belong to an underground group that's been building these tools for the last 18 months. And that just blew my mind, you know?
Right.
And so, um, and for me, I mean, I dabble in comparison, like, and you've taught me a ton of stuff, but you know, at that point in time, I could barely spell AI. And I mean, you know, we're talking two letters, and I was struggling with it, much less seeing some of the stuff. But nobody lands there just out of the blue. Even today, people oh, I work with AI, but they don't. They have a Chat GPT account or they have a Claude account, right? But there's a
Yeah.
difference. But
Right.
nobody just gets there. How did you get there? How did your journey take me from where you first got in, and what brought you to that place?
I think it started in 2000, like 19 ish, when I was actually I was, I left the real estate business, everything. I went back to a union boiler making work. So I was a union boiler maker, over 60 certs of welding. So I was like a welding engineer, welding refineries, new gas plants, which is a big thing in PA. I was a part of 4 projects. We built natural gas plants from scratch, nuclear plants. I was a supervisor in the nuclear plant, and so I was in the power plant energy industry. And then one when I came back January that one year, I literally was like in the wheelchair like within a few weeks because nobody knows why, right? That's another story. So my both knees exploded, and uh it's just a crazy story. But at the end of the day, God told me I had my own plans, and He said, no, you're gonna stand still, basically stay still. And I was in the wheelchair. So I got into saying I was such a workaholic, and now I toned it down a lot. I have a lot of hard stops, no weekends, right? But I said, God, what I'm gonna do now, I need to work. I was such a workaholic. So I got into this ecom challenge with this guy named Fred Lamb, really famous Asian Canadian guy, multimillionaire at the time. I said, I'm gonna do this ecom challenge, this 21-day challenge, to see if I could make some money. I wound up in first place. My store was the first one to make profits, and I was the store who made the most money at the time. I was featured with him. He was one of my first mentors, with selling drop shipping. And then from him, I went to Dan Vaz, which was a custom personal branding drop shipping. It was a more advanced method. And at that time, Rob, so I didn't mention, I was trying to, since 18, I was launching my inventions and trying and trying. I did, um, got 2 of my ideas ripped off, and at Walmart, they were in Walmart and everything, right? So big, long story. So I got ripped off by these big invention companies 2 times. And then, so I'm just drop shipping. I'm having connections with Chinese manufacturers with these advanced drop shipping strategies to plug in right to the source who makes these products. And then I got into the ClickFunnels world and learned how to build funnels. So now I had this main strategy of selling funnels, my products through funnels, and sending them to my main website for retail, like a store for later on. And then once I learned that, I had to I learned Dan Kennedy marketing. I got into his inner circle. I learned all this just to sell my products. And then I said, wait a minute, why can't I sell my own inventions doing this? Right? So this stems from learning softwares, um, uh, Zapier, piecing softwares together. We call it band-aid, right? And I had to band-aid figure all this out myself, how to piece apps together that will always break and sustain them. And then also I had to learn funnel design, the structure, the psychology of how funnels are actually built, like websites and all that stuff. So I actually self-taught myself how to do all this stuff. And then I was inside of invited. to ClickFunnels as a beta tester for their software. So I was trying all the new stuff. Then I went to Russell Brunson's Two Comma Club X program when it first came out. So I'm with all these millionaires, right? Eight, nine-figure guys, and I'm telling them on the table we're having dinner how to fix all their problems because they had major problems, which was simple. I said, hey, won't you build this system and do this? And the next person, we're just talking. I'm just giving them advice like this is how I would fix it, and they assume I made like 10 million plus dollars because of the knowledge. And I said, no, I just learned all this stuff, guys. I'm building this out, and at the same time, I launched my own invention myself and launched my Royal Luggage brand, which made like 40, 50K in 30 days after our launch. And it skyrocketed to a seven-figure business. I was on Fox News, CBS, all that stuff, and was in the inner circle. And then COVID came and, basically wiped out everything overnight. But then I got stuck coaching, consulting, and I was doing done for you systems for these high level entrepreneurs at from the beginning. So that's how I really got started. And the first client I ever had, Rob, hit his two comma club award, meaning he made seven figures in his funnel within 6 months because of the system I gave him. And this is me
Wow.
at the beginning, right? So that's
Wow.
how I got started. And once AI came, I was like, as you know, one of the first ones to say, "Oh, this is gonna be super fast doing everything." And we started cloning people, making ads, and doing all this cool stuff from the beginning. Before now, it's like almost mainstream to us
Yeah.
marketers. But yeah, that's how it started.
Yeah. When you say to us marketers, there's like people who think they market, and then there's like this
Ah,
inner circle of people who
okay.
do this stuff, right? Talk about that those groups of people.
Well, we have people that like me. I think I just been blessed because I'm a student first, and I go all out when I learn. I go who's the best at doing the best thing and go learn from them and buy all their courses, their coaching. It don't matter. I go hard and do that. But there's people that think this is pride. They could do it and figure this out on their own. Just because you could fix a pipe, don't mean the pipe is efficient enough to hold. Right? It's not the same as a professional coming in. That's why we call it a union. Like us, we had to weld nuclear plants that everything is critical. Refineries, right? And that's why they call the iron workers and pipe fitters had to call the boilermate. They have to call our hall for the best welders, like mirror welding. I was really good at mirror welding, and it was only a few in the world that could do what we did. And that's why I consider the highest craft. You want to be efficient and the best at what you do. And I also believe in that. That instead of trying to figure it out yourself, that's fine. But if you have an issue, find the best book or mentor or video and understand the process. And because I'm a big believer in speed, so don't waste time trying to do it yourself. Pay for speed because then you buy your time back, and it's gonna work because you either hire the best people or you learn from the best, and it really will shortcut everything, your time in the long run. But you're gonna not only save money in the long run, but you're gonna make 10 times more because you want to be a student first, and that's most entrepreneurial problems is the same way. And I was like that at the beginning, right? I had to, but then I got these coaching and courses and mentorship and masterminds that elevated me, and I understood that masterminds is essential for growth.
Yeah. It's funny. I think most mentors or entrepreneurs um, can oftentimes be their own worst enemy because they are the bottleneck to their success, right? Because they are the expert in the widget that they've created or whatever their thing is, that they're the expert. But you said something I think is so critical. You said as an entrepreneur, become a student first. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that before. Maybe you've said that to me before, but I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that before. And how, because I meet them all the time. I meet people all the time that they're afraid to invest money in systems and processes. A, because they just don't know, or B, they've been burned so many times they're afraid to do it again, right? Because
Mm,
they 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 got sold something by someone who was a self-proclaimed expert versus actually doing the research and the work to figure out if they are an expert. And
right.
so, I'm saying all that to say, um, how did you what made you decide to be a student like that, to buy the courses, to do those things? What was the catalyst in your life that made you decide that's the way for me to go?
Yeah, and again, the it's great you mentioned that because I could also mention, I actually lost my way and I steered off my ultimate chief aim in life, right? And one of them is to be a great inventor because I still have patents. I have multiple patents. I have multiple things I created, innovated, and still do. And all that was just to be a great inventor and really create products that innovate our economy that I still have, which now I'm on that same journey, Rob. Is like, okay. And not only that, now not only physical, but as you know, I built agentic AI apps now, which is the future. It's like the wave that is here that people don't know about it yet. Probably the first time you hear it, but these agentic apps is the future, and most of these companies are gonna have they have AI apps, which is cool, but the ones I have has their own kind of conscious way of forming and helping building your business or whatever. It could be a health app, right? So all that to say, like that is where everything came from. Rob was my initial chief aim in life from when I was 18 years old or 17 years old. Was like I gotta get these inventions out, and which, again, I did, but these big time companies ripped me off like two times. And it's out there. You could look at the stuff I did before. So yeah, I think me being an artist in life via inventor creator because again even when I was elementary school I was actually the characters I actually invented and created myself. It wasn't like I was yeah I know how to drug Bugs Bunny and all that, right, and Daffy Duck, but I had a friend, one of my best friends, he Lewis, he was a great artist too. Me and him got together and we would just start innovating characters and system like worlds and everything. So all that came from later on. I read this secret book when I was 17. It was like 800 pages, and it opened my eyes of more systems. Don't know where that book is now, but it did help me innovate, and I understand. And I was it's important. Math is I figured out is I was really good in math too. I was in calculus in like 10th grade or ninth grade or something. But all you're doing is solving problems. So if you solve a problem and it could be like your chief aim is actually solving a major pain point and problem, even a generational one, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's all you have to do is solve major problems and exchange for that value. Someone will exchange what you really want in life, which
Yeah,
is it could be money, it could be more time, etc.
yeah. One of the questions that I ask some of the people that I coach and talk to is, what one problem does your business solve? And it's um, odd to me that the majority of business owners can't actually answer that question. They don't know what they solve. They sell this widget, whether it's
Right.
insurance or
Features, yeah.
whatever it is. They think that is it, but they don't understand the idea of solving problems. And I think that is such a critical thing. How is AI changing that whole concept and of solving problems in businesses?
Yeah, it depends. Um, it really depends on you know the outline of where or what theme, right? But for us, as we build systems, as you know, there's every business, and we solve this problem faster with AI. Just all that to say, to buy your time back and have build systems. Then you have people you hire to manage the systems. So as the owner, you buy your time back and doing what you love to do. Like that's what your hat is supposed to be, CEO, not CTO, CMO, none of that. You're supposed to be envisioning yourself for the next chess move of your chief aim in life and planning for that, right? And before I get back to the AI thing, side quest here is you really need to focus on these four pillars because, and I'm gonna break it down. Once you get these systems, then you have a real business going on. So the first one, as I always say, is the lead gen system, right? You need a way to generate leads constantly. Okay, guys, not just I'm gonna run ads. I do believe in building an organic base, like a personal brand organic system that is an asset that lives online forever. And then like ads are steroids, right? And for personal branding, it's like the Goodyear blimp, right? You need to have be on top of mind at all times. Okay. Then you have your sales system. How you gonna close them? How you gonna convert them? How you gonna upsell them? How you gonna follow up? Then the third pillar is really the branded marketing system and all avenues to that to feed the lead gen system. Then you have your retention system. So that's the main pillars. And I'm shocked, Rob, that almost no business or company I ever come across ever has a real retention system. That's like subscription, maintenance based, how to get a premium offer on top of their core offer, how to have masterminds, anything. And almost no one has that going on. And we have over 8 systems that does that. And then I have the fifth one I discover. Of course, it's not a secret, but I kind of mastered this partnership system that I have, and I discovered that reading a book that's like 100 years old, and it's basically finding your other business or companies that is that has your clients already, right? So they have all your clients. They don't compete with you directly, okay? So find those companies and the exchange of one of do like a mini lead gen system for them, something that incentivizes them to come refer them to you and you vice versa. And that's how you scale super big with the fifth system. But when you plug AI into this, Rob, you can actually automate almost everything here. It's insane how fast you could grow and scale by putting AI in these 5 core pillars now. And once you have this locked in your business, like you, this is 7, 8, 9 figure minimum businesses.
So, do those five pillars scale across any industry?
So what I found was, um, every single business, and this is something because I used to teach inventors and all that, and it was similar, right? I break it down more granular. This is pre-business, but at the end of the day, if you don't have a lead gen system, you don't have a sales system, how to convert them, you don't have a marketing system, you don't have a retention system, which is that's the most important, right? If you don't have these four, at least these 4 pillars, Rob, it's like you're never gonna reach 7 figures, right? You can struggling, or if you're super high ticket, fine, but you're not gonna last. So we're looking at people that wants to have their business last and be resilient to even AI, right? So when you build these systems, I found out, and every single business that came to me, period, and I had wow different clients that was top master agencies to local service based businesses like roofers, all across the board, inventors, one of the hardest industries. And I said, wow, and this is what I figured out right with my own invention that I saw, oh, I need these systems. So I learned all of them. I launched them and realized to be sustainable and resilient, you need especially the retention system. Because that's what you're really made to be a real business when you have retention, recurring revenue. Then you could actually be evaluated and then you can
Mm-hmm.
actually sell your business and exit if you really want to. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the way to go to be exit ready. If you don't want to, that's fine. But that's when you discover it as a real business.
it's I think when you talk about retention systems in general, I think that it's an overlooked piece of business, especially in the industry that I work in insurance for the most part. Agents are graded on their retention, right? But
Mm,
they don't have any real process or system for doing
yeah.
that. And what I really hear you talking about is that anyone at any level can scale their business when you put the right systems in place. I think a lot of times, especially in the insurance world, agents are afraid to put systems in place because of the expense, because of the cost, those kinds of things. There's money up front, whatever it is. But if we put that on pause for a second, the industry is going through what we've termed now as the insurance tsunami. The change going on, which is massive across the board.
Okay.
And what I hear from you, and I want you just to touch on this. I know that we've got just a couple minutes left. I want you to touch on this. If you want to stay relevant as in your industry, how critical are those systems for staying relevant in a changing industry?
I mean, it goes back to at the end of the day, Rob, it's personal branding. Like if you're serious to dominate your industry, your space or location, especially when you come to insurance, like think about it. Who are the most successful in doing what they're doing on TV? Or now you got these commercials. It used to be cable TV, right? And now we're back to cable TV because now we have all these apps online that now it's subscription, so it's worse than cable TV, right?
Yeah.
So, but now you have these ads on there, and you look at it as personal branding. You see the gecko, you see Flow, you see the guy, I forgot Jason, whoever his name from State Farm, right? That they meet the
Jake,
demographics of
Jake from State
Jake,
Farm.
right, right. So think of the personal branding. So, and this is a hack that if you listen to this, trust me, you're gonna make more money. But it's critical to have your personal brand. Do your YouTube channel, start your content. It's free. Yeah, of course it costs time, but the investment is minimum, right? And build a system over that, and you will scale and put retentions. And that's when you have AI to clone you, right? With not even, now an image. Now we're using images to bulk produce content to scale you and do your ads and all that stuff, which literally you could just do what you got to do and just take phone calls, right? So at the end of the day, you should use systems to only qualify or renew the person and have AI do all the heavy lifting is to remind you and remind people, meaning remember the branding marketing, you have your nurture system too. So the one thing agents fail is to nurture them for the whole year until the renewal. Happy birthday, happy anniversary, congratulations, all on autopilot with AI. And then you will always be top of mind and be like, wow, this guy really knows me and cares about me. Of course, I'm going to renew. And then that's when you hit them up with, hey, we have these new offers. Are you interested? And then another referral system is, hey, if you refer us, here's an incentive, here's money, right? So it's so easy. It's so easy to scale your business, no matter if you're insurance, if you're a coach, a consultant, it doesn't matter. These systems is like I call it God's principles, right? They're biblical
Mm-hmm.
laws and knowledge that once you apply them to every business, it's gonna stay true and effective and keep going. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
that's what I would say to that.
That's awesome. As we wrap up, and again, I wish we had another hour, man. I really do. There's so much to cover.
All right,
But
another half hour. How about that?
if you got another half hour, we'll
Let's
go.
go.
Oh man,
Let's
man,
do
this
it.
is
'Cause
awesome.
now you got me excited. I'm interested.
That's
You got good
awesome.
questions.
Yeah, well, this is good stuff, and I think it's important because um, you know, again, we could have jumped on here and just talked, systems and AI, and it would have been good. But they're understanding you. I mean, there was a journey and a process for you to get here as well, and I think that that was equally as important. Um, Before we go back into AI and systems, because I do want to spend some more time there, I want to dive back a little bit. I know you said that you got a divorce, but you're remarried now, right?
Yes.
Talk to me about your wife and kids now, right?
Yeah. So it's a blessing. Um, I have a picture there of our first picture together, and in the back of it, there's a letter I inserted in the back. So when my kids find it one day, or anyone or even grandkids, God willing, they'll see what I did was after the divorce, I didn't want nothing to do with nobody. I was in my spiritual journey, and I was doing missionaries, and my main mission was at the time I was 30 to go to Cuba, one to visit my family for the first time on that side, and to do missionary work. And so I said, you know what, I'm gonna do both and go to Cuba for the first time, and just do what I gotta do. Um, and before that, um, I knew this trick. It was called the 80-20 rule to meet your spouse. And basically, how it goes is to write down 30 to 40 habits, characteristics, traits that you want and desire in your ultimate dream spouse. It's important because we always want to settle because we're lazy. We're late. I just keep it blunt. I'm a high D and high I. Okay, guys. So I'm really direct. So we settle for anyone. No, you need to put the highest standard for yourself. Even as my brother Pastor Glenn says, his wife he married up. He leveled up, right, way beyond his, which is a blessing. So I believe in that. I didn't do that with the first marriage. I threw it away, the paper away. But with this one, I wrote a letter to God. And then on the other side, I put like 30, 40 plus things that I wanted in my future spouse. And then it's the 80-20 rule because once you meet them, you get to know them, of course, you date them, then you could nitpick on this. And she scored a 95%, and which is wild because if they're 20% below that list, it's a no go, no matter what, which was, evident. If it's 20 to 80%, the higher to 80% is easier, but you're still gonna have struggles, right? You gotta be mindful for that because it's gonna 10x your relationship. If it bothers you now, it's gonna 10x in 10 years, right? So above 80 is a absolute plus. And when my friend, he was a psychologist and therapist, he taught me this years ago. A brother of mine in the ministry, he told me this, and I told him about it. I said, "She's the 95%," and his eyes went like that. So I never heard that in my whole life. I said, "Yeah, I did it to the T. I wrote letters to God, and that was because we had four unknown factors, which now she's 100%, right?"
Wow.
So I say all that is because when I went to Cuba, my brother, I met him physically for the first time with his wife. We was in Havana, but we went to Guantanamo down South Cuba to meet her side of the family, and she wanted me to hook up with her sister so bad, right? But when I first saw her picture before I went to Cuba, it was the worst picture I ever saw. Now I know that, but it was such a bad picture. I try to be nice and say I don't think she's interested in me, uh, I don't think so, right? But when I went to Cuba, I actually saw her. I was like, wow, my mind was blown. I said, in my mind, I told her that I said, I'm gonna marry her. Period. Right? That was my mindset at that time and my goal. And then I said, yeah, we fast forward, and my sister-in-law hooked us up with her sister, and then fast forward. That's how I met my wife in Cuba. And it's different because the culture there is family first base, which I fell in love with. The people in Cuba, it's different, way different culture. Really family based and loving and loyalty, right?
Mhm.
Um, so that's where I met her, and she came to the States a few years later, and yeah, I'm just amazed and blessed to have a woman like that in my life.
How long have you been married now?
So right now we're gonna say 4 years. You know, we had issues with COVID, and it was a big
Yeah.
story when COVID happened. We were separated for a while because of COVID, right? And she couldn't get over here. Then we couldn't. Then we got married, but yeah, we was for a few years, total like 8 years, if you say. But yeah, it was a great journey and experience to have that relationship because here's the thing: we had to every day we talked on the phone, like literally talked on the phone, which is important because uh, if you guys are new in your marriage or stagnate, like talking and it's so essential to your relationship because even when you have kids that grow up and they abandon you, I call it, you know, they got their own lives. Guess what? You're gonna be stuck with your spouse, and how you flourish and how you garden that plant of your wife or your husband is what's going to happen later on, right? So you have to keep that and cherish that blessing that God gave you, I believe, and that's why I believe is essential. And you know, when we
Yeah,
talk about
that's
relationship,
awesome. That's awesome. And you have two kids, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Son and a daughter, 4 year old and 3 year old.
Yeah. How's it being a dad?
You know what? It's sometimes I wake up and can't believe it because you know how I was raised. It was you know wasn't the same, and I just thank God. Like wow, it's such a blessing, and and I don't know. It's just especially certain people, right? I believe kids are a blessing and angels. Of course, they got I call them sour pouch kids, like my daughter, you
Hmm.
know. But it's amazing. And to me, I don't know. And that helped me push me too to my chief aim, right? It's like, you know, you want the best for them at all times. It's
Hmm.
also scary, I think, right? Because you always have this scared, you know, fear is one thing, but you're always scared because you want the best and you never want them hurt. You know, you want to protect them at all times. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's an amazing journey.
Yeah. How do you think fatherhood changed you?
I think it like grounded me to be realistic and be more responsible with my time because like I said, super workaholic, but when I embedded like the Sabbath, right? Sabbath weekend I call it now because I believe yeah, there's times you gotta go hard for a whole month or so. Okay, you got these seasons. But hard stops after dinner. We all eat together, no phones, no technology, and then we watch like a biblical seasonal episode, which is amazing, like Genesis or Moses, something like that. But you know, sometimes, but that bonding of hard stops showed me like the journey. Like you have to spend time with your family, and that's how I realized the importance of scaling your business and really buying your time back to experience this life together. Because I tell you what, if I was still working and giving up on my visions and dreams and all that, my daughter would. She's only 3. She knows fluent English and Spanish, ABCs, 1, 2, 3, colors, singing. She does so much advanced things. She talks like an adult, and she does chores. She cleans and do all that. It would never be possible if we both had to work, and they're always with someone we don't even know,
Hmm.
right? Which is to me, you know, maybe you have a family or mother, but in our case, we don't have so much family, and they accelerate because we treat them as young adults, and
Hmm.
they have responsibility. I have a video of my daughter right here. Sometimes she's behind. That's her office right there with that chair, and she's. I'm like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "I'm working to make money and doing this." Or she praises God. She knows full songs to worship songs. It's 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 like overwhelming, dumbfounded, and excellent things to experience because of I'm an entrepreneur, right? I'm a business owner, and I get to dictate a lot of time things, spend more time with them. with and it's a big deal. I really think it's a big deal to spend time with your kids at as much as possible and to teach them too, not just here's the phone, guys. Like teach them things and share with them, read the books with them. That's to me spiritually, they know this in their spirit and their soul. And this was going to help them with their confidence. This is what's going to help them scale and grow to becoming wherever they want to become because both parents is in their lives. If that's the thing, I know there's people separated is sad, but at least you as a parent could actually contribute that much as possible. To me, it's worth the world. Okay.
You know, so many people they go into business, entrepreneurship, whatever it is, with the intent of buying their time. Like that's what they want. I'm gonna own a business so that I'm in control of my time, only to find that they don't own a business anymore. The business owns them, and their time is completely monopolized by whether it's problems or
We call it they
employee.
own their own job.
Yeah, and so, what would you say to those people? You know, you work with them. What would you say to someone that's in that position right now, who's just like, I just don't have time. I don't have time to do that. I want all that you're talking about, Manny. I don't have time to do that.
I mean, I think everybody in this world, correct me if I'm wrong, has 24 hours in a day,
That's what
right?
last
Okay.
time I checked.
So to me, I have a thing called no excuses. I like to say that a lot. When I was younger, I was really blunt and direct, too direct. But the thing is, everyone has the same time of the day. And my thing is, how can you find the right systems to replace that time? Period. So it all comes back to the foundation. It's eliminating things. I used to call it. I think it's a book. Dean Graziosi is Millionaire Habits, Success Habits, something like that. It was a good book. It's write a not to do list, which is it helped me at that beginning stage. A not to do list. I'm not going to do this tomorrow. And every morning, especially Mondays, like today, I was like 2 hours in my lab thinking, just no phone, no technology, no computer on, just pen and paper. If you need the laptop, that's fine. You need to think and understand your what you need to do for the week and eliminating things you don't need to do and have hard stops and schedule everything. And I assure you, just that alone, the time management will scale you and buy a lot of freedom back and everything you need to do. But it all comes down to, and that's a system, right? So
Hmm.
you need to create these proven systems. And if you don't know what to do, just Google it, right? Just chat GPT it and just
Or get a
conversate.
hold of you.
Oh well, that's a that's a good choice. But yeah, I think it depends who they are in the problem situation, right? If they need to
What?
know.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think the problem sometimes is that people don't know what systems they need. So
Mm,
you
yeah.
talk about, well, I need to create systems. Well, they go, well, what system? How do I create a time management system? What do I do? And I hear that a lot from business owners. They're like, well, I tried time management. Well, they didn't necessarily, because they didn't build a system around it. They didn't build a way to actually manage time.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I think that's important. That's why I say, you know, if you're going, what systems? I don't even know where to start. That's why you come to people like Manny, because they are on the outside looking in and can help you put the right systems in place. And yeah, there's money up front you got to pay, but in the long run, you will save ridiculous amounts of money.
Well, I call it. Um, People say like some people they say how much I gotta spend. You know, how what's the wound or what's the damage? I said, listen, this is an investment. Okay. So if you look at it, first thing is mindset. People has to change a lot. A lot of people's mindset is so bad. That's why they can't get nowhere because they think negative, they think they criticize and they project this blame onto everything else. And that's the wrong way that it's an investment. And then the good thing to look at it, Rob, is opportunity lost, right? So how much is your plan or goal for this year to hit? If it's seven figures, $1 million this year, and you didn't make it last year, now you're on the next year trying to make the same goal. You lost how much you made. All right, say you made 300,000 last year. So $700,000, it costs you that much not to know how to get there. So this next year, if someone charges you 10, 20, 100,000, but helps you get to that $1 million, that seven figures, instead of paying 700,000 last year, you could have paid 100K. To me, that investment is well worth it. It's not
Yeah.
how much does it cost. How much would it cost to invest to get to my outcome desire? So
Mhm.
when you see that that opportunity cost, we call it, then you realize, wow, it is an investment. Of course, it depends who you go with, right? But that's a fact. Like you have to pay for your time, you gotta
Mhm.
pay and not knowing how to get where you're going, or you could pay for the bullet trains, the fast track, and say, all right, I'm gonna pay the best person to reach my outcome desire, and do your research who that is, uh, and then go with that person to scale you to the fastest way possible.
Yeah. I learned a lesson not too long ago in the last, couple years. Um, Money is time compounded, right? So if I make $100 an hour, that means that I compounded my time, that
Mm,
that gave the value, that gave time value of $100. And so I think, one of the things you're saying is that there's a cost to everything, but you either paid 700,000 to not make a million, or you paid 100,000 to make a million. And when you look at it like that, it's an easy thing. But sometimes people can't flip that switch. They can't flip that mindset, right? How do you how does an entrepreneur or a business owner flip that mindset? How do they shift that?
yeah, so I think the fastest hack is actually slow. It's slowing down and not fast speed up, but slow down and actually reading. Okay, so my thing, I think the best book that illustrates this asset and liability mindset is Robert Kiyosaki's book Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Mm-hmm.
Classic, timeless, and then get into Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Like those two simple fundamentals will help shift your mindset and help you understand. And if you read anything of Dan Kennedy, especially mindset, he has actually a time management thing. He's a classic and legend on these systems I built on top of, and many others, that if you shift your mindset and understand by reading these timeless principles and classics, and also Proverbs to me is like the ultimate wisdom. Proverbs, you can actually read, if it's 31 days in the month, you can read, it's 31 chapters, so you can read one chapter a day, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what I was doing for years and still do sometimes. But you read Proverbs will blow your mind because the profound wisdom that, and every time you go over it, guys, you're gonna like have some more insight and value because you're going through different seasons every month in your life. And that's what I would say is reading and installing in your subconscious, learning these things, and sleep and eat this wisdom to shift your mindset to this next level.
Yeah. You know, all of that is easy and good. Sometimes you're right in the middle of the fire. Tell me about a time in your life where you failed, where you were thrust into the fire and almost had to rebuild from scratch.
Mm, I think failed is a objective word because it depends how you look at it, right? Um, but to mainstream mindset, if I would say failure, which was really a blessing, I think it came with um a lot. I've made so many mistakes and failures like 100 times. But I think the Royal Luggage brand really showed me building real resilient systems because even though I know all these different components, I didn't have everything figured out yet. And when I started solving problems, um, and shifting my intentionality, right? So I think when you learn to serve people at the highest level, that's what I had struggles with because I was so focused on me. And said, I need this because my good intentions were this to give, but you need to be at the moment. And I figured out the big failure to me was the pride is to be humble enough to serve people at the highest level, to be obsessed solving their problems, and then that's when everything really the systems came in place because I was obsessed of solving all these problems and helping people and serve them. So my my biggest failure I say was not serving people as intentional and impact enough as I needed to.
Wow. So, yeah, that again, man, you say some of these things, and my brain takes off down
Yeah.
paths. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, working with the number of businesses that you've worked with, I think a lot of times that business owners and people, entrepreneurs, they forget to serve other people,
Mm.
right? The business, their employees, everything almost exists to serve them versus the other way. Am I wrong about that? I mean, talk to me about what you see.
Well, I think we all get lost. I think it starts with a spark of good intentions. But it's a journey to figure yourself out, who you are, what you're designed to do and be, which a lot of people never figure out. But then you get lost in the journey, like I did. It's like you think your why is this, but at the same time, there's rules and stipulations to get to your chief aim, and that is serving. So everybody, no matter what you're doing, it could be a nonprofit organization, which we have a big company we're helping with that now, is how can you serve at the highest level and figure out the pain point for people. And if you figure that point out, period, and you put systems with that automate these solving pain points at each level, then I have to get deeper into this. But if you solve these, Rob, then you don't have to worry about profits or money because they're byproducts then, right? The more people you impact and serve at highest value base, the more impact you create and the more income automatically by principles and laws alone you will obtain at the highest level. It's so easy and obvious, right? And my thing, one thing for these for you guys to this is a good hack. Okay, so what are these pain points and problems and where they're at what levels? Okay, so what we call in marketing is being people are problem aware. Okay, sometimes they're not problem aware, so you got to figure out that marketing piece and pain point to help them become problem aware and then solve that, help them with that solution. And then they're solution aware, so if they're solution aware, okay, they understand the problem, but how you gonna help them with that small win? Then the next phase is uh business aware, right? They're aware of you already. So these are like your warm audiences. So now you give them attractive character and personal branding building, give them things that help them. Of course, this all could be low ticket, but I advise you the long game is giving all these assets out for free in exchange of their time, of course, and their information, their email, phone number, etc. So once you collect all this and they're solution aware and they're business aware of that you solved the problem, that's when it's the lowest hanging fruit for them to become a client or customer. Okay. And that's how when you serve at these different marketing pain point levels with ease, within a year's time, you won't ever have a problem with income in your business ever again because you put systems in these different levels of pain points. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's going to be a lot for people to try and unpack, but that's what we want because we actually want them to want to and need to talk to you and or talk to somebody, right? That's
Yes.
the whole point is that I know when you and I met, we had these conversations, and it was really, a blessing that we got connected when we did. I mean, it was just kind of in the normal course of life. There is no reason that you and I should have ever intersected in our paths. We just weren't even in the same worlds, and we just happened to be a part of something in the same place. And that person said, "You two need to connect and meet." And the first time we met, there was definite a kinship and a friendship, and one that I've grown to really appreciate and love more than you know. And so, but
Same.
I think that people don't slow down enough to see the relationships that they connect with, to understand, the systems and processes that they need to put in place to slow down enough to see and understand the people they serve, and ask any insurance agent, what problem do you solve, and they think that it's an auto policy, and they don't know, they don't go to that next level. And I don't think it's just an insurance thing. I think it's a business thing, that people have lost the art of serving other people. And
Right.
I think that's such a critical key component to growing your business. And as we kind of, you were gracious enough to give us another half hour, and we're kind of coming up on that time. Talk to the people that might be listening to this about not just the concept, but the heart and the mindset behind serving people. Why it's so critical, why it's so important in your mind.
So as you know, I'm a heavy believer in principles and systems, and God's automation. I believe God installed these laws of gratitude and also laws of servanthood and um, easy. It's just to me, it's common sense. Like the more you serve, the more you give with intentionalities of enjoying the gift that you're given. Right, you have to enjoy it and be willing. Then things automatically come to you to reach your next level and that or the next chess move, if you will. And that's because you're serving, you're giving, and you deserve what's coming as you creating these paths for your future. And it's so evident. And it's crazy. Like I heard something the other year, I forgot, but it says something like the seven deadly sins. It's a reason for that to be sins for those who don't believe. Like, listen, these seven deadly sins is actually a causes physical harm to your health. Like if you correlate that, like to greed and all that stuff, even fear, right? I believe fear too, guys. Like fear, we call it when I was younger, false evidence appearing real. Okay, so it's an illusion that never happened because it's in a future event. It's an outcome desire that never happened. So that's
Mm-hmm.
another mental problem we have is anxiety, which is a big deal. Philippians chapter 4, verses 5 and 6, one of my favorite verses. Don't be anxious for nothing, okay? And the thing here is you have no fear, you have no doubt, you have faith, and you serve people. Those are the simplest key words to be successful and reach not only achievement, because remember, that's a byproduct, but also fulfillment and serving people will get you there at the fastest way possible. Like guys, instead of going to the meetings or parties and telling people all these accolades and about yourself that nobody cares, all
Mm-hmm.
you have to do is ask people about themselves and ask more
It's 10
questions,
o'clock.
ask more questions and self have interest in people and listen with both ears, as much twice as much as you talk, which is another one of these hacks that my mentors taught me is God gave you two ears and one mouth to you can listen twice as much
Yeah.
because that is the secret in extracting the data the pain point you need to actually make more money, right? To
Yeah,
serve. So,
yeah. You know, it's interesting over the last few podcasts and sessions that I've had in the talking with Ray.
mm,
He said, "Your credit is not your character. Like it's not who what defines you, right?" And we've talked about that. Last couple weeks ago, I had Don Hanson on here, and he said something just incredibly profound, and it was forgiveness is a business strategy.
mm,
And he was talking about the betrayals that he's had in business, and that he had to learn to let go of that because his ultimate revenge was success, was growing, and
right.
he couldn't do that without forgiving. I'm saying that to say it's interesting because this week, coming out of it more than anything, I've heard multiple times you talking about you know serving, and there's just these key elements I think that are coming out of some of these sessions that I get to have talking about something that is the one nugget,
Mm.
and so wrapping up here, um, say something to the people that might be listening. Just encourage them on serving. Take that and just kind of give us a final word on serving, whether it's your family, your business, whatever it is.
Right. So, other key words is be resilient, because if you have that chief aim in life and you know that's your ultimate why and you reverse engineer it, now you know exactly why God designed you and how to do it. You learn how to do it, and you serve not only people, but you need to serve that calling. And when you're
Mm,
faithful to that road and that faith, and you become a good steward of that goal, the ultimate chief aim in your life, it's gonna happen. You just need to be resilient, because there's no way. Another law is you have to come down before you come up, and that's like bank account via investment, guys. Right? That is marriages. Right? You have to have conflict to grow, to understand each other, because we all change in like 5 to 10 years. So we need to relearn each other again and keep going intimately. So resilience is something to install in yourself. Have no fear, have no doubt, have ultimate faith. Like if guys, God or whoever you think gave you that ultimate chief aim in your life is there for a reason. And you have full control and power authority to make it happen, right? And if it wasn't so, you won't even think of it. It's there. And it's there. It only will take, a few lessons. It could be the right mentor, it could be the right coach or the right business consultant. But if you actually want something in life, no matter what, it's gonna happen. You just have to have that resilience to keep growing, to keep going, and understand when you get impacted with storms and issues and tribulations, that's a good thing. Embrace it, see what you learn from it, and make it stronger for you to reach your goal faster. That chess move is for a reason. You sometimes, guys, I gotta sacrifice pieces because it makes sense at that time, because it will get to my checkmate faster. So that's what I
yeah,
have to say.
yeah.
Um, and thank you for having me. Been a
Hey,
pleasure.
thanks for taking your time and giving us extra time this morning. It was awesome. I have thoroughly enjoyed it, and I've got 10,000 more questions that I want to ask at some point.
Of course.
And but no, thank you for your time, for being here. And if you want to reach Manny, if you're part of the Agent Underground, you can reach him in there. You can chat with him. You can those kinds of things. He's in there, and we're gonna have you in. We're gonna have you do some live marketing and four pillar training in there at
Of
some point
course.
in time. So
Yes.
with that, hey everybody, have an amazing day, Manny. Thank you for your time.
Yes. See you.